What's going on, y'all? Bud Elliott here of the Nolecast, and this is the Instant Reaction Pod. Memphis 20, Florida State 12. FSU becomes the first team in the country to go 0-3 on the season. Not a distinction that you want, to be sure. I don't really know when to start. Well, I know when to start right now. I don't really know where to start. I mean, there were some aspects of this game that I was pretty encouraged by, and there were some aspects of this game that I was quite discouraged by. It's a loss, so I think we'll probably start the negative, and the negative is the offense. 238 yards against Memphis is just not going to get it done. That's an embarrassing effort right there. DJU 16 of 30 for 201 and an interception, so 53% completion percentage from DJ. Also sacked 4 times. Sack avoidance, pretty terrible there. So, I mean, he probably had 2 scrambles. So, like negative 33 on those. He had like 1 design run. So let's call it like 36 dropbacks. And I mean, you're looking at 184 yards on 36 dropbacks. I mean, that's just not going to get it done. That's like 5.1 yards per dropback. That's just, I mean, that's terrible. You're going to need to be more in that, like at the bare minimum, like 7 or 8. 5 is just 5 gets you killed, and it did today. Personnel wise, you lose Darius Washington in the pregame. That's a real killer for you because you're already down starting right tackle Jeremiah Byers. Your top reserve tackle transferred in the offseason to go start at TCU. We spoke about that on the last Nolecast. Really can't blame him, for doing so. And that was bad, right? So you're having to run in guys who really, let's just be frank here, aren't like ready to play or play at a high level. And you saw that with who you ran out there. So, I mean, Robert Scott and Jalen Early are starting for you. If you had told me that in the preseason, would I have predicted that Memphis was going to win? No, I would not. Would I have had some real reservations about you making a bowl game this early in the season? If I had known you're going to be without those guys for the duration, yeah, for sure. In fact, if you go back to the snap count draft episode and the season predictions episode, which seem pretty dumb now, but we're not going to get them all right. That was one of the things cited. Like if you lose, injuries at tackle, that would be a problem. And you really saw it today, right? It messed with your pass protection. It messed with your run game quite a bit. Memphis had 12 tackles for loss on only 55 plays. I mean, you're running north of a 20% tackle for loss rate. That's just not something that can get it done for you. I don't really know what to say about that hasn't already been said. And this doesn't really change my opinion on the season all that much overall. I mean, 24% offensive success rate is pretty crappy. Now, South Carolina almost won today, and they were running like a 28, but South Carolina also had quite a few more explosive plays than FSU did. FSU only had 1 play over 30 yards. That was to Malik Benson. He had a couple over 20, so not every single thing was terrible, but still not good, obviously. And ultimately, 238 yards against Memphis is just, I mean, that's horrific. 0 of 2 on fumbles lost. That's just kind of a kick in the dick, really. McCoy muffs the punt, which turned out to be a really pivotal thing in the game. I'm trying to think what else here. No real trust in the downfield passing game at all, at least coming out of the half, coming out of the locker room, which makes some sense. If Washington gets hurt in the pregame, then you're going to have some problems. I did think there was some decent stuff schemed up today. The screen that Keziah Holmes dropped was, I mean, you just can't have that. That's one that okay, you say, hey, they make up for it later, but I don't know that they do, right? That is a pass play that has a chance to be an explosive play because there's nobody around Holmes. And yet another critical drop at an inopportune situation. Not that there's ever an opportune situation to really have a drop for this football team. So it doesn't really change how I feel. Like, I'm not going to sit here and yell and scream because we already saw FSU play really poorly. And this effort certainly was not as bad as they played against Boston College. Like, BC was a bunch of guys, which to my eye, I think it was fair to question the effort and the focus. Um, I think you have a lack of trust in each other on this football team pretty clearly, as if you guys didn't already know that. But I think that is certainly the case. What else do we have here? So, I mean, offensively, hats off to Malik Benson. He finally caught a deep ball. That's fantastic. I mean, 99 on 9 targets is pretty solid. Rodell Williams fumbling that ball on the opening series was pretty killer because you have a situation here where uh, I mean, the first run you make is pretty decent, and then the second one, it's gonna be stopped for no gain or minimal gain, but you're still in third and short. And I just thought that kind of got them out of their rhythm a little bit. They put in Toa Philly, who they've wanted to use more as a receiver this year. Yeah, Jalen Brown get hurt, but ultimately Memphis figured out pretty quick that you didn't really believe in this downfield passing game at all. And uh, I think anybody with eyes has basically come to a similar conclusion this year. But all those screens eventually did get blown up. I think your success rate on screens, which I don't have in front of me because that takes a little while for it to be archived, or I would have to go through and grade every single one myself, which I'm not doing right now. Uh, but anyway, I'm just a little skeptical as to what those screens ultimately produced, especially if you're throwing them all the time. Which, if you get the look, you want to throw them, but you got to block those a little better. And all right, I just don't know what else to say about the offense. You're down both your starting tackles. That's basically fatal for having a quarterback who is like really unathletic and slow as molasses, and his delivery takes forever. And he actually made some extremely nice throws today, and he made very few awful throws, I would say. And even the one interception, which was on like third and long, whatever, it's like a 40-yard pass. That's basically a punt. So I don't really care about that. Um, I do care about figuring out what FSU has in Brock Glenn. I called for Brock Glenn to start before this game. I know that Brock Glenn does not look quite as good in practice as DJ does. But the thing is, DJ can't move. He cannot avoid pressure effectively, and he has a very elongated delivery. It is in some ways like Byron Leftwich esque, maybe. Is that what I want to say there? So when you're getting pressure like they are, and they were getting quite a bit, and you have a guy who is uh, very slow to process as DJ is, and he's got a long windup, that's just not going to work at this point. As I noted, I mean, basically 5 yards per drop back. That's terrible. 29 yard or 29% success rate on the day. What was it? 29, something terrible. I mean, 24%. Good Lord. That's pretty bad. So, I mean, sack adjusted yards per pass attempt, which I don't think counts the scrambles that were actually a net positive, but 4.8. So, pretty poor there. Anyway, now that you're probably officially out of anything, bowl game, whatever, I do think you need to try to work in some Brock Glenn, because at this point, I don't know about y'all, but as someone who grew up going to Florida State games, I don't give a damn if they go 4-8 or 6-6. I don't care about bowl games. I think if you're a Nole fan, you care about like the moonshots. You care about the really special seasons. And you do kind of want to know, can Brock play or can Brock not play? And you may be able to tell that from practice, but you also may want to see this guy in some games and see how he plays. So if I'm Mike Norvell, I'm like, all right, DJ, appreciate it, man. This is not all your fault. There were some critical drops today. And that's a hard thing to do, because then you're doing the thing where like you're not playing the guy who is the best dude in practice. But damn, if I mean that, like, what are you doing now? Like, this offense is clearly pretty broken with who you have in there and who you don't, and some of the pieces and how they fit together. So I don't really know what the downside is. What you gonna lose another football game? Who cares, right? You're in front of a crowd of like 30,000. All right, whatever. Like, it's this is definitely youth movement time. I don't know if they actually will do it, but I think they should. So uh, yeah, that's just my thoughts on that. I don't know what else to say. I do want to thank our sponsors. Man, they are just as pissed off as I think we all are. And I don't think getting on here just like screaming and yelling is great radio. So I'm not going to do that. But I mean, I think they're pretty disgusted with the product that Florida State is putting on the field this year. And um, is it Stripes where he says, "I want some butts"? I think there's going to need to be potentially some changes here for the Noles on the coaching staff, which again probably need to be remedied before the season. But it is hard to look at 13-0, and it is hard to take the snub and then try to run a bunch of coaching changes when you got a bunch of guys whose egos are pretty fragile and kind of a fragmented locker room there after the snub. A lot of people were pretty upset, as I understand. All right, so here we go. Congruity is an awesome, awesome asset to your business. Matt Lewis crushes it. Give them a shout. We have their number, or we have their contact info right in our show notes. If you want to optimize your business, payroll, HR solutions, I think we have 8 or 9 Nolecast businesses working with it. So that they do an awesome job. I think the legendary team does a fantastic job. Chad busts his butt for you. 844 FSU Loan is the number to call. 844 FSU Loan is that number to call. Give them a shout if you need a mortgage. I've done it twice. I think we're closing in on 600 Nolecast listeners who have done the same. And I think we'll have some new shirts to go out pretty soon as well. So excited about that. I will say, probably not the most embarrassing loss of the day. Not that it makes it feel any better, but Utah is losing to Utah State. That is, wow. Arkansas is losing to UAB, which lost to Louisiana Monroe 32-10. And Florida just gave up a 22-yard run on 3rd and 11 to let Texas A&M's backup quarterback off the hook. None of that makes this okay, though, because Noles fans don't give a damn about that. Noles fans want to go to Madso or Charlie Park, proud partners of ours, enjoy a beverage, have a great meal, and go watch a win over a team that you should be a lot better than, and you're not right now. And so they have every right to be pissed off. I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to encourage people to not go to the games, but are you guys going to the Cal game? If I'm not like somebody who needs season tickets, but I'd be really, I'd be surprised if a whole lot of people showed up and cared about this one. I mean, that's not great. Probably not going to be a great atmosphere when Cal rolls into town. All right, drop screens. Line of scrimmage surprisingly okay early, which was wild. It fell apart later. Pass pro not good. Definitely no trust in the downfield game. Need more hard play action. Play Brock. Those are my general notes that we have on the offense right now. So, yeah. All right. On the defensive side of the ball, I have to say that this could have been much worse. And I don't think giving up 20 points and 337 yards to Memphis is shameful, given where this team was, given what we thought would happen. In fact, I thought Memphis would score 20. This was a pretty decent defensive effort from Memphis. Now, or from Florida State. Now you had an 8-yard field goal drive. You had a 65-yard touchdown drive. You had a 27-yard field goal drive, and you had a 75-yard touchdown drive. You got a pick, great pick by Juice Cryer on a 50-yard drive. Memphis had a 38-yard drive that yielded a field goal attempt. And you had 1, 2, 3 and outs on the day, which is certainly better than they have been having, to be clear. All right. So, 9 tackles for loss for the Knowles, 4.7 per play for Memphis. That's a pretty good Memphis offense. I am a little surprised at how well FSU's defensive line actually stepped up and played for the majority of this game. But I also am unsurprised, which is a problem, that your linebackers and safeties continue to communicate poorly and to get exposed in the passing game. Um, Repeatedly, just crossers wide open, not communicating with traffic at all. It's just not looking like a well coached defense. And at this point, I mean, you're what are you 100 and 180, 190 plays into the season? I think you could just say it's not a well coached defense or not. I'm going to say not well coordinated, and I don't mean like, hey, Fuller sucks, that type of stuff. But like the coordination between positions, which of course is his responsibility, I think he would tell you, it does not look good. You have guys who just simply do not pass one another off. It just is not working. You have multiple guys trying to cover one dude, and other guys wide open on the other, and that was pretty disappointing today on a day where you did get a decent bit of pressure on Seth Hennigan. I mean, 3 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. It's not the 12 and 55, but 9 and 71 is still that's still a TFL rate north of 10%, and that is something that I track. Like that TFL rate north of 10% is good, and something that you should like that matters. All right, so I just the repeated like wide open guys underneath. I don't really get how FSU is that bad at it, but the fact is they are like that. That's not great. I will say that Hennigan made a couple really nice throws in this game, and you can tell why when we talked about on the preview that he would have been one of the top targets in the transfer portal had he decided to enter. I mean, clearly like a better target than DJ, but Memphis ponied up. They kept the kid, so that's huge. I was so proud of FSU's defense how they came out in this ball game, right? Um, I mean, 13% success rate allowed through the first 16 plays. They were way more physical. They wanted to set the tone. Memphis eventually got some stuff, but it's hard to sit here and really complain about 337 yards, 4.7 per play. Like if I told you pregame, Florida State will hold Memphis to 20 points and under 350 yards, everybody's taking that, no doubt, and walking away. Like that is an absolute yes, we're good with that. No problem here, in my opinion. Um, Now, should they? Is that like the best result you could ask for? I think you could argue that based on like who you have on the field, maybe you could expect if you were really all playing and clicking together, maybe you could argue that they should hold Memphis under 20. But given the starting field position on some of these, then again, maybe not, right? I mean, the two really short scoring drives here. I thought that was a kind of like a B effort from the defense overall, although some of the third down conversions were concerning. I mean, 7 of 17, you'd like that to be like 1 or 2 fewer, right? And then Memphis 2 of 3 on third down or on fourth down, excuse me. But overall, like that's not that bad. I'm telling you, like if FSU gets this kind of effort from the defense and they're able to fix the offense at all, they're going to win some games this year, which is a weird thing to say coming off this game because I see a lot of people saying they're going to go 1-11, which I don't know. Like I guess if the culture just completely collapses, it could certainly, but I don't know. I kind of liked what I saw from the defense for the most part. They did force Hennigan to make a couple hard throws. They did give him probably 4 or 5 throws that were too easy on the underneath. It is again Randy Shannon's linebacker group that's getting victimized over and over again. I'm not going to just like sit here and pick on one coach. You guys already know what my thoughts are on that because I first guessed the hire on this show and said like that's a terrible idea. I don't know what they're doing, and I don't know if they do based on that one. Kirkland had ended up playing as Brown was out. I don't know if Brown was hurt or something else, but he obviously had the ridiculous jumping off sides penalty. I believe it was Kirkland late in the ball game when FSU had a chance to get the ball back and actually mount a drive that was not under extreme clock duress. Uh, what else do we have here? Man, I don't know. Like, this is just not great. I want to do the rewatch to look for some more bright spots because at this point, that's kind of all you're reduced to, right? It's okay. Are any of the young guys playing better than we realized upon initial watch? But ultimately, like this offense was just so gross. I don't. I also think at this point, it's like I don't really care what they do in practice. Um, I, it doesn't really matter to me because whatever it is doesn't translate over to the game. So you kind of need to go to option B there. And if it looks worse, okay, that's fine. So I'll talk to you all again on Monday. Special guest for the Thursday preview show. Got some exciting guests coming on. And again, I do apologize if the audio feed was poor in the audio one for the preview. I don't know how that happened, but it did for some people at least. So that stinks, and I apologize. So I don't know what to do about that. Let me see. That's really all the notes I have for today. I just my thoughts on this team haven't changed a ton because uh, this is roughly what you had seen prior, and you just did not get. You just didn't get anything decent in terms of coming out of the bye week offensively. Like the offense arguably looked worse in this game than it did against Boston College. Arguably, like I think you can say they had some better things, but again, like Boston College's defense is way better than Memphis's defense. And I should point out, BC like played and had a really good game today against a Missouri team that's trying to go to the playoff. So, all right, appreciate you guys listening. Make sure you give us five stars and thumbs up as always, and I'll talk to you again on Monday. Appreciate the thoughts.